Breaking news. Europe is on edge tonight as Russian drones violated Polish airspace during a massive overnight strike on Ukraine, sparking the most dangerous escalation since the war began. For the first time, NATO territory has been directly breached. Polish officials confirmed that at least 19 drone-type objects crossed into their skies, with multiple interceptions carried out by F-16 fighters and allied NATO aircraft. Air raid sirens in Lublin, Rzeszów, and even near Warsaw triggered panic, as flights were grounded and airports temporarily shut down. Military sources described the operation as swift but tense. Polish defense units, reinforced by Patriot systems and NATO surveillance, tracked the drones for hours as they moved westward. 3 were destroyed outright. Others fell or disintegrated deeper inside Polish territory. In the small town of Wieraki, debris struck a residential building, shattering windows and damaging the roof. Miraculously, no casualties were reported. The government in Warsaw wasted no time. Prime Minister Donald Tusk addressed the nation, calling the incident a direct act of aggression and demanding immediate consultations under Article 4 of the NATO Charter. Crowds gathered in city centers, some chanting in fear, others in anger, while military convoys rolled visibly through eastern provinces. Social media lit up with grainy footage of fireballs in the night sky, drawing millions of views within hours. Across the alliance, the reaction was immediate. NATO issued a statement pledging solidarity with Poland, while leaders in Brussels and Berlin warned Moscow that the alliance will not tolerate further provocations. Yet amid the outrage, a chilling reality emerged. This was no accident. Analysts agree Russia was deliberately testing the boundaries, gauging NATO's readiness to defend its own skies. The incident marks a turning point, not only in Poland's security but in Europe's collective sense of vulnerability. In Warsaw, the political response was swift and fierce. Parliament held an emergency overnight session as leaders debated the scale of the threat. Prime Minister Tusk declared that Poland was closer to a direct clash with Russia than at any time since World War II. Opposition voices, instead of criticizing, echoed the urgency, demanding that NATO demonstrate immediate resolve. On the streets of Warsaw and Krakow, thousands gathered with Polish and EU flags, chanting, "We are NATO," and "Defend our skies." The sense of unity was powerful, but so was the fear. Meanwhile, NATO's top military council convened extraordinary consultations under Article 4. Fighter jets from the Netherlands, Germany, and the United States were put on standby, with surveillance flights intensified across the alliance's eastern flank. European officials confirmed that discussions about activating Article 5, collective defense, were not off the table. For many Poles, hearing those words was both reassuring and terrifying, a reminder that their homeland might now be ground zero for the next stage of this war. International condemnation poured in. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen called the drone incursion an unacceptable assault on NATO security. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer pledged additional military aid to Poland's defenses, while France emphasized unshakable solidarity. In Washington, however, the response was strangely muted. President Donald Trump, usually quick to comment on global crises, remained silent. Reporters shouted questions during a scheduled appearance, but he walked away without addressing Poland's situation. The absence of a clear statement from the White House sparked outrage across European capitals. Analysts accused Trump of failing the test of leadership at a critical moment, warning that America's credibility as NATO's backbone was now in question. Back in Poland, the human toll of the incident became clearer. Families from villages near the eastern border described terrifying hours hiding in basements as drones buzzed overhead. "We could hear them, like angry bees in the night," said one resident. "We knew they weren't ours." Emergency crews. Media outlets across Europe and beyond erupted into non-stop coverage of the drone incursion, replaying the fiery footage of Polish skies lit up at night and looping interviews with shaken residents. Analysts filled every broadcast, warning that the breach marked the most dangerous escalation of the war yet. On social networks, hashtags like #Poland under attack and #NATO response trended for hours, while millions debated whether Europe was on the brink of direct war with Russia. The pressure on political leaders grew by the minute. Financial markets also reacted with alarm. Warsaw's stock exchange tumbled on opening, while shares in major European airlines slid amid fears of disrupted airspace. Energy prices spiked as traders speculated about further instability on the continent. Economists warned that the longer uncertainty persisted, the deeper the shockwaves would reach across global markets. "It's not just a military story anymore," one analyst said on live TV. "This is about confidence, and confidence is breaking." Inside NATO headquarters, the mood was tense. Officials confirmed that several member states had urged Washington to issue a stronger public statement, fearing that silence from the U.S. was undermining the alliance's deterrence. But the White House continued to avoid clear words. Former President Donald Trump questioned repeatedly during a press availability, deflected with vague remarks about complex situations, and quickly shifted topics. The lack of firm leadership infuriated European officials. One senior diplomat, speaking anonymously, told reporters, "If America cannot show resolve now, then when?" Moscow is watching this hesitation. Editorials across Europe sharpened their tone. Prominent newspapers accused Trump of paralysis and abdicating responsibility. Satirical shows portrayed him dodging questions while Polish families hid from drones. The contrast between Warsaw's defiance and Washington's silence became a headline in itself. Commentators asked openly whether the world's most powerful alliance could withstand such visible cracks at its core. Meanwhile, in Poland, people prepared for what might come next. As the crisis deepened, the debate shifted from shock to strategy. Within NATO, officials began discussing the unthinkable, whether the drone attack constituted grounds for invoking Article 5, the cornerstone of the alliance's collective defense. Though no formal move was made, even the suggestion sent a chill across Europe. Commentators called it the most serious moment for NATO since its founding, a test of both military readiness and political will. Poland pushed hard for decisive action. Prime Minister Tusk insisted that hesitation would only embolden Moscow, declaring, "If we do not defend our skies today, tomorrow it will be Berlin, Paris, or London." His words reverberated across capitals, spurring debates about whether Europe should take greater responsibility for its own security. For many, the incursion proved that NATO's future depended less on Washington's will and more on Europe's determination to stand together. But in the United States, silence still dominated. Trump's reluctance to deliver a clear response became the story itself. Television panels replayed clips of him dodging reporters' questions, splicing them with images of Polish families sweeping broken glass from their kitchens. Headlines described a vacuum of leadership, while allies fretted that Moscow saw hesitation as weakness. In Brussels, one EU official went further. "If America cannot speak when NATO soil is attacked, then perhaps Europe must." The public mood reflected this unease. Protests grew larger in Warsaw, with banners reading "NATO protect us" and "Where is the West?" In Berlin and Paris, demonstrations called for tougher sanctions and even direct military involvement. The streets echoed a rising demand: clarity, unity, and protection. But clarity was nowhere to be found in Washington. Meanwhile, intelligence reports suggested that more drone incursions could follow, keeping defense systems on hair-trigger alert. European leaders warned that the line between provocation and open conflict was narrowing by the hour. Across newsrooms and living rooms alike, the question grew louder. Would this be remembered as the night NATO proved its strength, or the night its divisions were exposed? For Poland,